welcome to Unlocking the Power of Generative AI for In-House Counsel. I'm Jasmine Simmons, the social chair of the Beverly Hills Bar Association's in-house section, and I'm delighted to introduce our speaker, Sterling Miller. Sterling is the COO, General Counsel, and Senior Counsel at Hilgers PLLC, bringing over 30 years of legal experience to this role, including serving as a four-time General Counsel at Marketo Inc., Sabre Corporation, and Travelocity.com, where he led teams through landmark matters such as Sabre's 2014 IPO and the sale of Marketo to Adobe. A prolific author of 7 books, 4 published by the ABA, a data privacy expert certified by the IAPP, and a sought-after speaker with over 300 presentations to his credit, Sterling also publishes the award-winning blog 10 Things You Need to Know as In-House Counsel and writes regularly for Thomson Reuters on artificial intelligence, data analytics, and in-house legal practice. And now, let's get started. Sterling?
Wow, thank you. Thank my mom for helping with that introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me just a minute here while we pull this up, and we will get started. All right. And let's see if I can put this into presenter view. Okay, so hopefully you're just seeing the slide and not the little stuff that goes on behind the curtain. But if you are, someone just let me know and we'll switch back over. But I'm really thrilled to be here today. I've been very excited about this presentation for several weeks. I am not a technology person, kind of experiment with it, play with it, find it really intriguing. And artificial intelligence has just been, at least in my experience, pretty amazing. And I'm really happy to share some of the basics with you here today. Maybe sometime we'll come back and we'll do a more advanced course than this. But as Jasmine said, I've been a lawyer for way too long. I have written a lot, including my blog, 10 Things You Need to Know as In-House Counsel. I'm one of the few in-house lawyers that have left the in-house practice and gone back to a law firm. I work for Hilgers, which is a national law firm. We're the largest female-owned law firm in the country, about 130 lawyers or so. And if anyone's interested in that story, reach out to me later. I'm always happy to talk about that as well. If you take no more than 3 things away from today's presentation, these are the 3 that I hope stick in your mind. First, don't be afraid of artificial intelligence. Just try it, have some fun. It's pretty interesting. I think you'll be amazed later on when we get into, we're going to do some live prompting, and we'll see the results in real time. And I think hopefully, if everything works, you'll be, if you haven't seen it before, you'll be pretty amazed at what you get back from doing this. Number 2, everything depends on the prompt. And the prompt is just a fancy word for the question or the task that you are giving the AI tool. And that is where we're going to spend most of our time today, is talking about how do you draft prompts that actually give you really useful and practical results. Because as an in-house lawyer, or even if you're just a lawyer at a law firm or in government or whatever, practical results are really what you're going for, right? Something that you can actually use and is going to be helpful and, most importantly, save you time. And then the third thing, start small. You do not have to boil the ocean here. Most of the prompts we're going to talk about are very short. They're designed for very specific purposes, and you'll catch on, I think, really quickly that you don't have to write a page or 2-page prompt. You can if you want to. I'll have an example of one of those, but most of it is just really short, really easy. And then as you get better over time, you can come up with more complicated prompts that will get even more practical and interesting results from them. The other thing we're going to do today, we're going to do some live polling. So if you are ready, you don't have to participate in the live polling. It's completely anonymous. I'll have no idea who's responding to what, but if you want to, you can use the QR code on your phone and you can vote on your phone. Or if you want to open up a browser or another screen, if you just go to slido.com and put in this number, pound 3662486. That will take you to the first poll. Both the QR code and this pound number will appear on every poll slide. So if you don't start right now and you want to participate later, you'll have that opportunity. So let's start with our first poll. And here it is. I think generative AI is overhyped. The next big thing, just a helpful tech tool. It's something, but I'm not sure what it is. So why don't you go ahead and vote, and we'll see how this group feels. Okay, next big thing, overhyped. Okay, that seems to be the two answers. Interesting. At least no one's not sure what it is. That's good, at least for today. Okay, so 80% next big thing, 20% overhyped. It may be a little bit overhyped or somewhat overhyped, but I believe that it is the biggest productivity booster for in-house lawyers, law firm lawyers, government lawyers, probably since the invention of the laptop and the computer. I think it's just going to be that impactful. It already is. I think you're just going to see it more and more. And why is that? It's because it's transforming how you work. And one of the things that I have found to be really interesting about using generative AI, and I use it several times a day, is it enables you to streamline. It enables you to think more because a lot of the, I guess I would say, kind of the grunt work that goes along with being a lawyer, the AI tool can do. And I'll give you some examples of that. And you can spend more time thinking, more time analyzing, more time figuring out what exactly it is that you want to say and how do you want to say it. And getting that time back, to me, has just been really a phenomenal aspect of generative AI. And you can see some of the things here that I've listed: efficiency, better legal research and analysis, or at least improved, maybe not necessarily better in all instances, data-driven decisions, um, better ways to communicate with clients, potentially self-service, clients using a chatbot, for example. We'll talk about that in a few slides as well. My message, though, when I talk about generative AI, and I talk about it a lot to legal teams and to groups like this, is the train's leaving the station, and you got to get on, or you're going to be left behind. So the fact that you're here today and you're listening to this, I think means you're at least wanting to buy a ticket, and hopefully you're going to get on the train, because this is the new reality. You probably hear about AI every day. There's lots of new technology coming over the transom every day. This is what the legal practice is becoming and what it's going to be, and I don't think that's going to change. So welcome to the new world, because we are here, and it is going to it's going to stick around. So when it comes to generative AI, do you use it? Do you use it daily? Do you use it on occasion? You never use it, and I don't want to. That's okay. Or I haven't used it, but yeah, I think I want to, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here. So daily, occasionally. See if we have any Luddites who never use it and don't want to use it. I'm just teasing. If you don't want to use it, that's absolutely fine. Okay. On occasion, about a quarter use it daily. And there's no one who hasn't used it. Well, that's really interesting. So that's good. That also kind of underscores, I think, some of the points that I'm going to be making throughout today's presentation, that it is here and it's becoming more interwoven into the day-to-day practice of just about every legal professional, not just the lawyers, but the paralegal, support staff, etc. So what are lawyers doing with generative AI? And these are two different polls. So the one on the left and the one on the right, you can see very similar responses. Drafting and legal research are primarily what the uses are, but you see a lot of summarizing, reviewing, negotiating. We'll talk a little bit about that today as well. And at the very end of the one on the left, estate planning and wills. So I guess if you're an estate planner, I can certainly see how a tool like generative AI can be really helpful. So as you think about generative AI and you think about uses, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about some other specific uses, you're not alone. This is something that a lot of lawyers are using, and they're getting a lot of value out of it. This is not an ethics CLE, but I did just want to touch on the fact that generative AI raises a lot of issues under the rules of professional responsibility. And by raising issues, I don't mean anything bad. I just mean there are things that you need to be aware of. One, and you'll see this headline in just a little bit, is in some quarters, they're asking, is it malpractice for a lawyer not to use generative AI? Meaning it's becoming so ingrained. Is that something that a client potentially could make a complaint about? I find that one a little surprising. But you do have a duty of competence, meaning you should at least understand what's out there, whether or not it's something that you should use or want to use. There's confidentiality issues. We'll talk a little bit about that. There's supervision issues. There's unauthorized practices of law. So what I did is I created a chart. I'm not going to read this to you. You will get a copy of the PowerPoint. You can go through this. These are the model rules on the left-hand side, but they track pretty closely to the rules in California, or if you're in other states, you'll recognize these all from any set of professional rules that you're gonna apply to the use of generative AI. So what is it? What are we talking about when we talk about generative AI? And a lot of folks may remember, probably 2017, 2016, there was a wave of what I remember as legal tech AI. And there were companies like LawGeeks and Legal Sifters, and they were just starting to do things like analyze non-disclosure agreements, look at contracts. And what they could do is they could spot issues and they could tell you that there might be an issue, but what they couldn't do is really what generative AI could do, and that's create something new. And that's what's really exciting about generative AI. And that's all possible because the computing power that is necessary to actually make this work really came into being toward the end of 2023 into early 2024. That's when you probably started hearing about Chat GPT or maybe Claude or Gemini or any of the generative AI tools. And I've seen it described as it's an artist in the world of artificial intelligence. So instead of just being able to spot patterns and tell you something, it can create things that did not exist before. That's the generative part of generative AI. So great example, it can tell you, artificial intelligence from 10 years ago could tell you this is a picture of a dog because it's been trained on what a dog looks like. Generative AI, you can say, okay, I want you to create a picture of a dog on a surfboard, holding a torch and doing whatever. And it will create that image that didn't exist before. So it's generating something that wasn't around. And that is really, I think, the breakthrough that you're finding when it comes to generative AI versus some of the tools that were around about 10 years ago. But at its heart, it's just a chatbot. And most of the people here on this session, you have used chatbots for the last 5 or 6, 7, 8 longer years, right? You go online at a bank, you may have a little box that pops up, chat with one of our agents, probably a chat bot before maybe it's going to kick you over to a real person. You've ever tried to book a time to get your car serviced? You get a little chat box. That's probably AI back there. So you're used to seeing this and you're used to using this. It just has never been put forward as a tool like it has now for professionals. And that's something that I think is new and allows for these really incredible, like human-like interactions where you can use the microphone. I tend to just type, but you're going back and forth with the tool and you can iterate on the fly and it can ask you questions, it can ask you things, and it can listen to what you want it to do differently than what it was doing before. So that dialogue that you can have with it is really exciting. But everything depends on the prompt. So the question that you ask, the follow-up questions, the refinement, that all circles around what we're going to be talking about here in just a few slides. So another poll. What do you use? If you have used it, and it looks like most of you have, are you using Claude? Are you using OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, Harvey, or using something else? I think you can vote for more than one of these. So if you're using multiple, I tend to use several, though I like ChatGPT the best so far. Um, let's see. Harvey tends to be more of a law firm tool. It's also really expensive, but it's good. But Claude and ChatGPT, this is pretty typical from what I see, generally the runaway winners. And that's not a surprise that there's lots of different tools that people are using because this is a snapshot of all the generative AI tools that fit in the space called legal tech. There is an incredible amount of AI that is out there and available. And every day, I think you're just seeing new players come on to the scene. So trying to find tools that you like, that do what you need them to do, is a challenge because there's just so many different things out there. Everybody has some type of AI baked in to their product. So sorting through and finding the things that are going to really work and really do the things that you need them to do is getting hard. And who do you trust? What do you trust? Those are all great questions to be asking yourself and others as you go forward, trying to figure out what is it that we're going to buy? How are we going to use it? And I call this the crazy. It just keeps coming. There's headlines every day. These are just a handful that I've been snipping out for the last month or so. You see the headline in the middle about OpenAI accused of the unauthorized practice of law. That's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. In the bottom, possible legal malpractice risk for those who don't use AI. That's another really interesting one. Will it kill the billable hour? I don't know. People have been talking about the billable hour being killed many times, but it has survived. So anyway, there's lots and lots of news out there. One of the things that I recommend is finding a source that you can go to regularly to keep apprised of what's going on with AI tools. I think I list some of those in the resources section of this presentation. So when you get that, all the hyperlinks will be live. You can click through that stuff and finding, one or two things, not 100, not 50, but just a couple of trusted resources that will keep you abreast of what's going on is something, if you're interested in this area, I think will serve you very well. One of the things you're probably hearing about a lot is something called agentic AI. We are not going to talk about agentic AI today. That is kind of another step forward. We are going to focus solely on generative AI. But I do want to tell you what the difference is. So as you go forward and you start to hear the term agentic AI, what are they talking about? What does that mean? So generative AI, as we just discussed a few slides back, it's about creating new content based on data, generating output. It could be an image, it could be audio, it could be code, videos, whatever. It's responding to a prompt, right? So what we're going to talk about, it produces content. That's the output that you get. Doesn't really do anything independently. It's not going to be working on its own. It's only going to be waiting for you to ask it to do something, and it will require you then to continuously prompt it if you want a result or you want something to come back. Agentic AI is using artificial intelligence to connect different systems, different tools. So rather than just generating output, it can start to plan. It can break goals into steps and then take action on those steps. It can interact with whatever tools you can connect it with, and it can adapt what it's going to do next based on the results that it's getting. So one of the examples that I've used before is with an agentic tool. You could say, "Hey, I have a meeting with such and such. Can you find all of my emails to this person, summarize what our conversations have been? I want you to pick a place for us to have lunch, send a calendar invite, and then create a packet of materials for me so I can make a presentation to this person." And that agentic AI is going to go out and do all that stuff and bring it back to you and present it. So it's not going to wait for one prompt to do this, one prompt to do that. It's just going to go ahead and if you give it access to all those different systems, it's going to access those and bring that back. Again, that's way over here. We're not gonna go into that today. We're going to talk just about generative AI. Question that a lot of people ask. They ask me, how does it work? Okay, no one cares is my response. It just works. If you really care about how it works, great. You can go dig all you want, but I think most lawyers, they just want to know how to use it. How does it, how does it do what I need it to do? All the stuff about tokens, all the stuff about predictive wording doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Okay, another poll. What's your biggest concern about generative AI? Is it confidentiality? Is it hallucinations? Is it that it'll take my job? The cost? Just learning how to use it? You can pick more than one here, so feel free to pick all five or just pick one. But I'm curious to know what people are finding in terms of their biggest concerns. Hallucinations, confidentiality. Yep. Learning how to use it. No one is worried about it taking their job. Okay. Interesting. Or the cost. Um, that's one, that cost one. I'm just waiting for these to pile up. Is interesting because one of the headlines, I don't know, I didn't point it out, was there's a lot of sticker shock going on with companies that have been building around the use of AI, that now the bill is coming due for the token usage, which are basically the bits and pieces that make it go. And the cost savings that they were planning on are now starting to get undercut by the cost of actually using the tool. Nothing is free. And that's a lesson that I think will be interesting to see how that plays out. So, okay, hallucinations, yep, confidentiality, learning how to use it, understand all those. As I look at it, I think the elephant in the room is confidentiality. How do I protect my sensitive data? And there are several ways that you can do that. One is what we call a closed loop, or if you have an agreement with the AI provider that they're not going to train the public. LLM stands for large language model. That's kind of the guts of what we're talking about. Um, Not sharing personally identifiable information, financial details, passwords, just not putting that stuff into the prompt. If you don't put it in, it can't access it. It can remember past conversations, so you have to be mindful of what you're sharing because it just keeps building and building on that. There are certain things that you can do to basically erase that if you want to, which is fine. You can opt out of model training and improvement, and I'm going to show you where that is when we go to ChatGPT Live. That's the temporary chat feature where it's not going to store, it's not going to train. Those enterprise level tools, so if you're going to pay the money to have the enterprise level, those agreements are usually focused on confidentiality, protecting the data, not using it to train, and you can feel pretty assured that whatever you put in there is not going to make its way out into the public. And then, of course, there are a gajillion ways that you can use it where you never have to put confidential information in or privileged information in. You can use the free version. You can use the solo paid version, and you can use it a lot without ever triggering any of these concerns. And some of the prompts I'm going to show you, I'm going to point that out as we go along. Some questions. So if I was an in-house lawyer and I'm looking to buy a tool, this is a checklist of questions that I would be asking. Will it be training? Where's my data stored? Is it encrypted? How is the attorney-client privilege protected? How do I restrict access to different parts of the data? And understanding that you may have limitations as lawyers of entering privileged or highly sensitive information into consumer AI tools, because you would be breaching, if you go back to that chart on ethics, you'd be breaching confidentiality, which is broader than the attorney-client privilege, or worse, you'd be waiving the attorney-client privilege. And there were some cases recently that came out on work product and whether or not a client asking prompts to generative AI waived the work product privilege or not. And the courts are all over the map. The case that made the headlines a month or so ago said, yeah, you waived it, but there was just a case here in Texas this past week that said you did not waive it. So understanding what jurisdiction you're in, how they look at it, all that's going to be really important. Those are important questions that you need to ask. Will it take my job? No one picked that. I was really surprised by that. But that's a question that when I'm talking with in-house lawyers, which I do quite a bit, they're kind of scratching their head. They're going, is this ultimately going to replace me? And in my experience, what I've seen and what I think, certainly over the near term, highly unlikely. Now, it may change it, and it may change your job a lot, and I think it may change it for the better. Um, it will not take your job, but lawyers who don't know how to use it, I'm going to go back to that train analogy at the very beginning, you will probably be replaced by lawyers who are using it and who are comfortable. I think it's just going to become table stakes and an expectation that lawyers understand how to use this technology and use it in a way that is not only appropriate under the ethical rules, but is also going to drive efficiency and drive results. And if you're in-house, you're probably already getting pressure from the C-suite about how are you using AI? Show me the savings. Show me how this is, we've put a lot of money into this. How is this paying us back? What's the ROI? All of those things. But in terms of wholesale replacing of lawyers, I don't think the bar will allow that to happen, the state bar. We're already seeing that now with some potential claims about the unauthorized practice of law. If you're letting a chatbot deal directly with clients and give legal advice, is that or is that not the unauthorized practice of law? You still have to validate everything that comes out of artificial intelligence. So that means there has to be a person there to validate it, because you can't have ChatGPT necessarily validate itself. It tells you what you want to hear. And this is something that I think is really dangerous, especially for smaller businesses that may be thinking, aha, I have a solution. I don't have to spend lots of money on lawyers. I can just ask Claude or I can just ask ChatGPT. One of the things that I have found is that it's very eager to please. And if it thinks this is what you want to hear, and this kind of comes to the hallucination part, it will tell you what you want to hear. So you have to be skeptical, you have to be thoughtful. And one of the prompts that I'm going to show you is a way that you can kind of go back and stress test Are you just telling me something I want to hear? Or are you really uh, doing the analysis that needs to be done before you give this to me to look at? The other thing, and this is it's asterisk here. This was from Barka Jane. Really great article in LinkedIn. You can click on the link here. Um, Generative AI has no judgment. It has no strategic decision framing. It doesn't try to persuade. It has no ethics. It has no context, right? These are things that people do. People judge temperament. People understand business pressure. People consider media sensitivity and negotiation leverage. Now, maybe way, way down the road, generative AI or AI tools will be able to do these things. I just don't see that happening in the near term. And when it really matters, is the CEO or the board of directors, are they going to gather around a laptop and type a question in and ask it and go, yep, that's what the computer said, that's what we should do? Are they going to want a person there, a chief legal officer, general counsel, a compliance officer, who's going to say, here's what we need to do and here's why we need to do it? I think for the foreseeable future, it's going to be the latter. So I am not concerned about stealing jobs. I would be more concerned about making sure I know how to use it and I'm using it in the right way. Okay, so that's kind of the background and the preliminaries. Let's start to get into how do I actually use this tool. And as I've said already several times, it's the prompt. That's what's going to matter. That's what we really need to focus on. And there are some links here, like 15 best prompt generators. I'll talk about that in a second as well. But the complexity and the value that comes from using this tool really starts to build off of the prompt. And while you can use really simple prompts and get very useful and practical results, the more sophisticated the prompt over time, you will find you can really get some amazing output from generative AI tools. The more detail and the more that you build your prompt into something more than just a sentence or two. Again, you can use a sentence or two, you're going to get a lot of good stuff. But over time, as you make those prompts more sophisticated, it's going to be better. And keeping in mind, it's like a conversation with a young associate or an intern that's really smart, really eager, but you would never take something that a first year lawyer wrote and just say, oh, here you go, CEO, board of directors. First year lawyer wrote this. I'm not even going to look at it, right? It has to be awesome. It's not, and it's not going to be. And you treat what you're getting from generative AI just like you're having that conversation with a young lawyer or an intern. You're going to have to give them context. You're going to have to look at what they've produced and go, you know what, you missed something, or can you embellish this part? Can you talk more about this? And you have to check it because, again, it's not a 30-year lawyer. It's that first year lawyer kind of eagerness and writing style that is useful. It's maybe a good first draft, but it's not going to be the end result in many cases. So keep that in mind in the back of your head. But the secret sauce is the prompt, and we're going to learn the basics here in just the next few slides. This is going to be 101. So if you already know how to do all this, I'm sorry. Maybe again, next time we'll do 201. We'll get into some really complicated prompting, but I think for most people, this is what's going to be needed. Okay, so let's get a base here before we start getting into drafting prompts. Are you great at it? Are you sucky? You've never drafted one, or I'm okay at it, but I want to get better. So let me know what you are, how you think you are when it comes to drafting some prompts. Okay. Yep. No one sucks. Good. No one's great though. Okay. And no one has never drafted one. Okay, that's really interesting. Usually I get a few of those. Okay, we'll give it another minute or two, and then we'll get going. Okay, so well, not most, all have said I'm okay, but I want to get better. So let's get better. So let's talk about drafting prompts. And here are my 10 tips for how to draft better prompts. So number one, be specific about what you want to come out of the tool. So you could draft a prompt that just says explain GDPR, and you will get a response that is going to try to explain the entire GDPR framework for you. It may be incredibly long, it may be incredibly detailed, but it may be more than you want. Maybe what you really want is, I just want to know what the duties are of a data processor under GDPR. Or maybe you want to know what are the differences between a data processor and a data controller. So the more specificity that you give it, the better and more useful the result. What type of format do you want? So you're giving it a specific prompt. If you just say explain GDPR, you're probably just going to get a narrative. You may get some bullets. But if you say, I want you to explain GDPR and I want you to set out each provision separately in a table, that's what you're going to get. It's going to create a table for you. It's going to, go across section 1, section 2, section 3. What is it? And you'll see that you can iterate on that as you go along. Give it a persona. If you're asking a legal question, you almost always want to say you are an experienced data privacy lawyer, commercial lawyer, litigator, immigration lawyer, whatever the case may be. Think about who you would be asking this question to get the response back. And that's the persona that you want to give it. And you'll find that when you give it a persona, your answers get more precise. They get better because now it's starting to think like a person with that background. Then when you give it a persona, tell it who the audience is. Who are you writing this for? Is it for another lawyer? Or is it for the business? Is it for your son's sixth grade class? Whatever it is, tell the generative AI tool, I want you to write this at a level that so-and-so can understand. And if you do that, you will see that the sophistication level of how it writes will change depending on how you've identified the audience. Context. So again, think about this. If you were sitting down with an intern or a first-year lawyer, you wouldn't just say, hey, go explain GDPR. You would be saying, okay, we're going to talk about data privacy. There's this law in the EU. Whatever the case is, you're going to have to give that context. You're going to do the same thing for the generative AI tool. And the more context you give it, the more detail you provide it about the background, the better the response, the better and more precise it's going to go. So here we're saying you're an in-house commercial lawyer, so contracts. You've received a contract from a vendor, so you're the customer. You're writing from the company's point of view. I want you to prepare this table section by section. So you're getting really specific. You're giving a lot of background for what you want. And I want you to change the wording, how you would edit the wording, and then justify that edit in case the other side asks me, well, why do you want that? So that context is really helpful. And that also is great that you can have it take both sides. If there's an issue that you want it to look at, take my position, but then tell me what the other side is thinking. What do you think they will say? What do you think their negotiating points will be? Not necessarily that you want to adopt those, but if you've ever been in a negotiation, trying to understand what the other side wants and why they want it and anticipating that going in, generative AI, Chat GPT, Claude, whatever, is a great brainstorming partner. You can ask it lots of questions. It will come back. And maybe a lot of it you already knew, like, yeah, I know that, I know that. But if you get one or two nuggets out of that prompt, something that you hadn't thought about or hadn't focused on, think about how valuable that is, how important that is if you're going into some type of negotiation, or maybe you're going to make a presentation to the board, to a client, and it can help you think and anticipate what might be coming back from the other side. Thinking about prompts like a recipe, and like a recipe, the more sophisticated ones, you're going to want to break it down step by step, meaning you're telling the generative AI tool, here's what I want you to do, and here's the order that I want you to do it. So here I'm asking it, the legal department needs a contract management system. I have to go justify this to the CFO. I want you to write an introduction. Then I want you to describe the benefits. Then what are the challenges that we're going to have? What are some of the future trends that we should be aware of? And then I want you to summarize all those main points with a call to action. So it's just like a recipe. You're just walking down item one, item two, item three. You can also ask it to give a tone of voice. You can ask it to be neutral. You can ask it to be funny. You can ask it to be persuasive, which is what we're doing here, because I want to persuade the CFO to give me the money to buy the contract management tool. So same thing that we were doing, in number 7, but now I want you to adopt a different tone. And it's kind of fun if you play with it to ask it to take different tones. And one of the things that I've seen people do, and I've done, if you've written something and you're going, I want this to be simpler, I want this to be less snarky, less harsh, whatever the case may be, it can take something that you've written and it can give you a different version of it that's going to better suit the needs that you have for that communication. You need to follow up. So all the stuff that you've put in and you've gotten your first response, you need to look at it and decide, is this good? Is this what I need? Or do I need something more? And, one of the things that I do is you know what, can you restate this and beef up section 7? I want more of X, more of Y. Can you redraft this, but do this? So it's the part that's really neat is that you can keep going back and forth until you get exactly what you think is the most useful. So that follow-up is really important. And then lastly, modify and iterate as necessary. So the example here, you're a competition lawyer, you want to prepare a summary of section 2, which ChatGPT will give you a summary. And then you go, you know what would really be helpful? Give me 10 examples of how product manufacturers can run afoul of section 2, right? Because now you're thinking, how am I going to use this with the executive team? And then you're saying, okay, that's great. Now turn this into an email, but use words that are appropriate for business executives without much experience with legal, right? Because you don't want to talk, you want this communication to sound like, the people reading it are lawyers, because they're probably not. How can they understand what it is that you're trying to say? So as you are thinking about your prompts and building your prompts, those are the things that you should keep in mind. And here's an example of a relatively simple prompt that can get you some really terrific results. So say you were doing a document review and you wanted to summarize some of the documents that are in this pile. So I want you to summarize the key factual information from the attached document. So let's say you found a hot document, or maybe you have a stack of them, however you want to do it. But you got to get those documents together. That's the task. You're going to enter those into the tool. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. And then here are your instructions. I just want the facts. I don't want you to do any legal conclusions. I want names, dates, events, summaries of the communications, flag anything that's ambiguous or unclear. And then here's the format. I want you to give me the key facts, the timeline, potential issues identified, information that you think is missing or maybe is uncertain. Identify that so I can go back and take a look at that. And then what sections do you think will require additional review by an attorney. That's a relatively simple prompt, but it gets a big amount of information back from whatever documents you have loaded up. And what I have done in this presentation it's pretty much all about prompting from here on. So one of the blogs that I wrote late last year in the 10 Things blog is 100 practical generative AI prompts for in-house lawyers. We are not going to go through all 100, but if you're interested in just some really straightforward, simple prompts that you can use right now, that's a great starting point because you can just cut and paste those into the tool and start to see how generative AI tools work. The other thing that you can do is what they call a prompt engineer. These are tools that are usually, at least for ChatGPT, this sits within ChatGPT. I know Claude has one. I suspect the other tools do as well. But you can ask it to improve your prompt. Like, here's what I want. Here's what I want to know. Here's my prompt. How would you make it better? And it will give you what it thinks is a better prompt. Or you can just start from scratch. I want you to help me build a prompt that's going to do X, Y, or Z. So, however you get there, there are dozens of different ways to create prompts from just your memory, from resources online, from prompt generators, from other people in the legal department, from colleagues at the law firm. One of the things that I've advised in-house legal departments to do is create a prompt library. As people find prompts that work for certain tasks, save those into a common place where people can go. I need a prompt that's going to generate a term sheet. I need a prompt that's going to do a negotiation playbook. If you find those that work, you don't have to start over from scratch if someone has written one that already takes care of the things that you need it to take care of. All right. I want to see how you use generative AI, and you can pick more than one. So do you use it to draft agreements, maybe draft pleadings, summarize documents, prepare meeting transcripts, or something else? I'm limited by the number of things I can put down, so I'm curious what people are using it for. Other, okay, great. We'll figure that out. Summarize, that's usually a really big one. Drafting some agreements, okay, great. Pleadings, little bit. Other draft agreements, summarize. Okay, it's a really good mix of different things. Here are some of the things that you can do with it right now. These are all things that I have done with generative AI. I'm not going to read all these to you. You can read them. You'll have this with you. There's two that I want to point out. And the first one is that highlighted in blue because a lot of people use it to summarize documents, summarize meetings. Be really careful if you are using the AI tool to summarize what happened at a meeting. If you're going to do that, you need to make sure you have reviewed that transcript and that it is 100% accurate because it will make mistakes. And if you don't correct those mistakes and that document exists, so it hasn't been deleted, and there's ever litigation or a regulatory investigation and that document gets produced, you will have a really hard time saying, well, that's not really what was said at the meeting. It made a mistake. Because the obvious answer is, well, if it made a mistake, why didn't you correct it? So if you're going to use it, be thoughtful about that. And if people are going to use it within the company and you're in the legal department or you're a law firm and clients are using it, make sure they understand this, that it's not perfect. It's not a verbatim recording. It's AI listening and summarizing what it thinks it heard. So you want to be careful with that. The second one I wanted to point out is at the very end, and this is something that I've seen start to build here over the last few months, and that is using generative AI as an intake for legal departments, meaning if it's a phone call, if it's an email, if it's on Slack or Teams, if it's submitted as part of a form, you can create a generative AI interface that takes all of those different ways that people contact the legal department and put those into a tool that will create, triage those, will assign those, will make sure that they're tracked, will make sure that they're captured. Because if you think about it, that is incredibly valuable for a legal department. Because I know firsthand how all the requests come in many different ways. But if you can channel them or even just send them yourself to your tool and it goes through, organizes them, logs them, assigns them, or at least gives you a recommendation on who to assign it to, that can be a huge time saver and generate a ton of data, really valuable data that can help you analyze what the legal department is working on, what different people are working on, et cetera. So those are just a couple things that I thought were really interesting in this world of what you can do with it right now. This is not stuff that's coming. This is stuff that you can do tomorrow. And the one last thing before we go to the live portion here, just remember, if you're using AI, it's an assistant. You need to keep a person in the loop. AI is not the decision maker. You are. It depends on the lawyer, depends on your judgment, depends on your thought process of what did I get? Is this useful? Is this correct? Is this what I want to pass on? If all you're going to do is pass on what generative AI cranks out, you're taking some big risks, especially if you're concerned about hallucinations and things. If you're going to use it to draft and it cites a case, you got to go read the case. But if you think about it, you would do that anyway. If I'm an experienced lawyer and I have a first year lawyer write a brief for me and they cite these cases, I am going to look at those cases to make sure that my first year lawyer analyzed those cases correctly. I am not going to take something that an intern wrote or a summer associate wrote and just turn it over to the court or to the board or the CEO. So keep that mentality as you use generative AI tools to understand that you need to keep that human element right in the middle. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to show you a few of the prompts. Then I'm going to drop out of this PowerPoint deck and we're going to go live to ChatGPT. If you've never used it, this is ChatGPT. Claude is very similar. I haven't used Gemini, so I'm not sure. I suspect it looks pretty close to this. Basically, here's your search box. You ask it whatever it is that you want in the prompt, and you'll get the response. And some of the prompts, we're not going to do all the prompts. We're not going to have enough time to do that. This is scheduled to go for 75 minutes, so it'll go a little past the bottom of the hour. So hopefully you can stay for that. But and all these prompts will be in the materials that you have access to. So if you want to use them to play with generative AI, to try them, to edit them, to use them in some way, absolutely 100% fine. I highly encourage that you do that. So we're going to have it draft an email to the business talking about a legal concept. Here it's going to be the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. There's a prompt for creating checklists. If you just need a contract clause, you're working on a contract and you realize there's something missing, it's a great tool for that. It has access to most of these have access to Edgar, the Edgar contract database. So you're going to get some really good contract clauses if you ask. You can have it review a contract and set out the pros and cons. This is one of my favorites. You can have it teach you something. You can create a course, a prompt to have it create a course for you to learn something new. Here, I picked how do you read financial statements, but if you wanted to learn the basics of immigration law, you could have it teach you that. Or just pick a topic, and that's really one of the amazing things that I think, and really useful things, especially for in-house lawyers, to help you get up to speed on a topic relatively quickly. Explaining legal issues to the business in a way that they can understand. Summarizing documents, we talked about that, creating a summary. Simplifying writing. One of the things that I remember from being in-house is you get a lot of really great work product from your outside lawyers. The problem is it's going to be really hard just to turn that over to the business because they're probably not going to understand it. Their head's going to explode. So how do you take that and simplify it? Generative AI is incredibly useful for doing things like that. Term sheets. This is one of my favorite uses, creating a term sheet from whatever information the business has given you. It's really good at translating. It can translate into multiple languages, English to whatever, or that language into English. It's not perfect, of course, but it's good. It's really good. That's another really great tool. And something that I wish I had when I was general counsel, it can write employee reviews, and it can do a tremendously great job at that, which is really, for me, really exciting because most reviews, you're waiting until the day before they're due, and then you're kind of just speeding through them. This can really speed up the process and give you a much better work product to turn over to the employee. And then lastly, and I alluded to this, this is a prompt that I wrote that when you get something from generative AI, you can ask it to go back and go, I want you to look at what you just gave me and identify where's the uncertainty, what assumptions have been made, where is there incomplete information, and what statements should I independently verify. These are some of the biggest problems that you see with lawyers who are using the output of generative AI. So this is a way to use generative AI to self-check its work and tell you the things that you should be focused on as you're taking that work product and trying to decide what you do next. If we have time, I'll show you that one as well. We'll come back, hopefully have a few minutes for questions at the end. If we don't, you can email me anytime. I'm more than happy to talk to you about any of this, talk to your legal teams about this, reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn, and we're going to stop now, and I'm going to pull up ChatGPT, and we're going to go live. So hold on for just a second, and I will pull this up. And I think you can put questions in the Q&A. And making sure I got the right. There we go. Yep. So you should be seeing my chat GPT. Now I've already pulled up some of the prompts that we just looked at. And so you won't see that. You're only going to see me basically cut and paste the prompt in. So the very first one you might remember was that Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and wanting it to create an email explaining it. So here's the prompt, paste it in. You work in a legal department, so I'm giving it a persona. I want you to explain the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act to the CFO, the company. Use simple business language. I want you to label it as privilege. Make sure that you talk about who qualifies as a government official, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see the whole prompt is here. And then you just click on this button here to send the prompt. And here you go. And fortunately or unfortunately, I happen to know a lot about the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, so I can look at this and go, yeah, that's right. That's really good. There's nothing confidential in this prompt. You could put this into a public version. All you're asking it to do is summarize something that's a law. So again, you don't need a closed loop. You don't need to be concerned. It's just giving you a summary in an email. This is really good. I would probably, if I had this, I would take it. I would slim it down. I would do other things with it, but it's an amazing first start, and it saved me. I could probably write this, but it would take me maybe a half an hour to do it, assuming I remembered everything. This gives me lots of touch points. I can edit it. I can do whatever I need to it. And to edit it, all I need to do is, you see this double box here. I can copy the response. I can paste it into a Word document, and I can go from there. So really useful and incredibly fast. So another thing that we talked about was a term sheet, which is something I think a lot of in-house lawyers deal with. I'm going to go ahead and copy that prompt, and I'm going to paste that right in here. So bear with me. Okay, so here's the prompt. An in-house lawyer. Here are the terms. 25 million in revenue. I want a 60-day exclusive period to negotiate. Here's the purchase price. Delaware law applies. It should be non-binding, other than for the confidentiality and an exclusivity period. Here's how the consideration will be paid out. I want an earnout, and I want the founders to stay with the company for at least 2 years. And then put in whatever the other standard terms are in a term sheet. And it knows what those are. So if you have just the email from the business and all you did was cut and pasted that in and said, turn this into a term sheet, you would get a pretty good first draft based on whatever was in that email or document, whatever it is that you got. And then you could edit that, you could change that, you could fix that as you go. And you can see, again, pretty decent start on a term sheet. Again, something that might take you a half an hour, maybe even an hour. If I could get the initial draft done in 10 seconds and then spend an hour honing it, that is going to be a much better work product than the hour that I spent just kind of get to this point in the process. So you can see all the things that we talked about are in here. Then has customary representations and warranties. So that wasn't something I asked. I specifically gave it. I said, put some customary stuff in here, indemnification, etc. Conducting business prior to closing. Again, you can pick and choose the things that you want. So really fast, really useful, really helpful. Okay, so let's go to, now I want to do one where I'm going to have it pull a document in and analyze it for you. So here's one where I wanted to set out the pros and cons. So we will go back to ChatGPT. Okay. Paste that in. Okay, so here, you're an experienced contract negotiator. You work in-house for an auto parts manufacturer. You're looking at a data storage agreement. And I want you to set out the changes that you would recommend from the viewpoint of the customer. So me, right? I'm looking to buy data storage, and I want you to note any provisions that are favorable to me and why that is the case. I want you to set out your analysis in a grid, and I want you to include why you are recommending the change, and then how would you respond to lawyers for the vendor going, why do you want that change? I don't understand what the rationale is. So what you have to do now is we have to add a file. So you see here, it says add files and more. So you click on this, and this is going to allow me to pick the, whoop, that didn't work. That's going to allow me to pick the document that I need. Let's see, where did I just have that? Let's see. Well, there's always one technical problem here. All right. Rats. That did not work. So hold on just a second. I'm going to cancel that. I know what I need to do. So bear with me just a second. Never works the way that you want it to, but that's okay. We're going to overcome and adapt. Okay, so now I should be able to do it. Okay, so here is the agreement. These are the terms of service from a company called Snowflake, which is a data storage company. This is from online. This is not confidential in any way, so I'm not violating any terms of the agreement. I just took the online terms and I made it into a Word document. You don't even have to do that. You could use a PDF. You can do whatever. So you can see now I've loaded it up, and you can see it's loading. So it gives you that circle, and there we go. So now it has it, and send it. So it's reviewed it, and you can see it start to prepare the chart. It's giving me priority. It's giving me the issue. It's giving me the concern. So it gave me kind of the high level. So first what it did is it gave me priority of what the issues are. I didn't ask it to do this, but it did it. These are the ones that are most important. These are the ones that are less important. Now it sets out in a chart what I asked it to do. Here's the section. Here's the existing provision. Here's the recommended change. Here's why you want it. And here's how you would respond to a vendor question. And it just does that, excuse me, throughout the entire contract. And if you ever worked on a lot of contracts with negotiation, this is a very common tool, like a playbook where you go section by section, what's acceptable, what do you need to negotiate. And it did it in seconds, which again is a huge time saver. And it keeps here, it's giving me the 5 biggest changes. So if I have limited time and limited leverage, it's telling me these are the 5 things that I would focus on. Again, I can paste this and put it into a document, and then have that handy to use. Okay, so the other thing I want to do is I want to have it. I want to show you where it will self-analyze whether or not um, the its analysis makes sense. So bear with me just a second. I've got to make sure I get these saved to the right spot. And this will be the last one that I do because we're going to run out of time here. But I hope that what you're seeing is that this is pretty amazing stuff. And again, it doesn't take an incredible amount um, of work to create prompts that are generating really useful materials for you. Again, you'll have access to all these prompts, and hopefully, what you'll see is that you can do this starting this afternoon. If you haven't already, or maybe you haven't tried anything like what we've been showing you, you can do that already. Okay, so what I want it to do now is I want it to review a legal issues summary that I prepared. Now, this one, again, this isn't one that I would want in the public, right? Because I've prepared an issue. This is going to be a more complicated legal analysis. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently here than we have done. So what you can do with ChatGPT, sorry, you got to go all the way back up here. Well, I thought you did. There should be a button, always the danger of live, where you can tell it to keep this confidential. And it's a little black thing, a little black button. I'm not seeing it here on my screen, so I'm sorry. Again, just goes to show you, you never know what you're going to get. So I'm going to pretend that it's there, and we're going to go ahead and put the issues in. So I want you to provide an overview of the legal issues impacted by the facts in the attached memo. Here's what I want you to do. Identify the legal issues, identify controlling legal standards, highlight areas where jurisdiction-specific research is required. Here's the format that I want. And now I have to attach the memo. So I go back and I find that memo, and here it is. And I've attached it. And it's just like a memo you might get from the law firm, or maybe in the in-house legal department. You just kind of wrote out, here's what happened in this case. And this is basically a potential breach of a restricted covenant. So it's going to read it, and now it's going to set out what the possible legal issues are. So you can see its enforceability, trade secret misappropriation, confidentiality breach, non-solicitation, injunctive, unfair competition. Now, I probably would remember and know all these if I was analyzing it, but here's one: computer access and data downloading. I may not have thought about that when I was looking at the facts as a possible legal claim, and then what are the potential defenses? Here are the principles that I need to be aware of. Here are the relevant areas of the law that I need to focus on: employment law, federal law, intellectual property. Here are some questions that are going to need some further legal research: non-compete, trade secret, confidentiality. So it's taking that memo of facts, here's what's happened, and it's giving me a roadmap to start to plan the litigation, which, coming up on the litigation side like I did, is really, really helpful. So it's telling me what additional facts are needed. So it's giving me a really great tool to go and figure out what else is it that I'm going to need. Now, I'm going to go back, and you've got one of those last prompts where I said I want you to basically check your work. I'm going to put that prompt in here now. So before finalizing, I want you to look for any uncertainty, any assumptions, areas where the information is incomplete, and any statements that require independent verification. So now it's going to take that prompt, and it's going to go and review what it just did. So it's telling me, here's my uncertainty. Because when you read that, what it produced just before this, it looks black and white, but it's not, because it had to make assumptions. There had to be uncertainty. And if you ask it what those are, it's like, oh, you want to know that? Well, here it is. So this gives me kind of that next layer of control when I'm going back to make sure that we're really thinking about things like a lawyer would think about things. Is this a complete picture of what's going on and what I'm going to need to know? Where are my weaknesses? Where are places where I'm going to need to build up and buttress what I am doing? So here you can see it set all that out, again, in a very useful self-check. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and then we're going to open it up for a few questions here before we get to the end. But I did have one last question I wanted to ask you, and that is, how do you feel? We spent about an hour and 15 minutes together. Do you feel better about AI? Worse? No change? I'm just curious if you thought now like, wow, this was helpful, or not. It's fine. I have thick skin. Okay, good. At least one feels better. I appreciate that. Okay. Again, you'll get a copy of this in the appendix. There are resources. There are tons of prompts, extra prompts, more prompts than you probably could shake a stick at. So have fun with this, play with it, build prompts, spread the word. I think you're really going to have fun if you haven't already playing with generative AI. And even if you have, hopefully I've given you some additional ways to use it. And with that, I'll stop, and we'll see what questions there are. I see, let's see, Q&A. Okay. So what was prompt 8 again? Sorry, I can show you those later. Apologies, sounds debatable, but most of the AI originators believe has grown well beyond a chatbot, has conscience. sentient in the minds of many, declared it has become recursive, self-programming. Well, it is getting better. I don't know if it's sentient yet. I think it's a great tool. I would take issue with this, but I don't know what it's going to be like in 10 years or 15 years. That'll be interesting to see. Yes, the prompts, you will get all the prompts. They should be in the materials. And if for any reason you don't get them, you can email me, and I'm more than happy to do it. I did show you the self-check at the end. Difference models. I cannot tell you the difference between instant and thinking. I'm sorry, Cynthia. Yes, you'll have access to the PowerPoint. All right. Any other questions that I can answer? Feel free to put those in to the chat. You've been very patient. I know we're right at time, but I'm happy to stick around here and answer anything else I can. Oh, display contact info. Okay, I can do that one more time. Let's see. I need to, where did that go? Here we go. Okay, gonna close that. And I will share the contact info one more time. Okay, so there you go. Either at the firm or my personal email. You can find me on LinkedIn too. Once you connect with me, I'm happy to engage even further. All right, I think we're at the end. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you learned something. Hope you had a little fun. And most of all, I hope you're encouraged to go and play with generative AI and see what it can do for you. So thanks everyone. Take care, and thanks for having me. I really, really, truly appreciate it.
This concludes today's presentation. Thank you so much, Sterling, for an excellent presentation today, and thank you so much to our audience. Have a great day, everyone.